Most of us have two lives, the life we live and the unlived life within us. Between the two stands resistance. But it's just odd because you just wonder, or I wonder, I don't know that anybody else does, but it's like the Yetzer, is it Yetzer? Now I'm forgetting.
Yetzer
Hara, your shadow self, resistance, like all these things are kind of synonymous, but you just wonder they have to have a purpose. But it's like, is the only purpose so that there is some dichotomy between, because otherwise you wouldn't know what good was if you didn't know what bad was. And like, but it seems to me, like I know it serves that purpose, just that contrast, but it seems like it's got to serve some other purpose besides that, doesn't it? I know. So you just wonder, or is it just a game? Like we've kind of talked about before too, where we're just like these pawns in this game, and whoever is like watching over this game is just testing us to see if we're going to survive the game or not.
Well, what I keep thinking about, and this has been over many discussions we've had, many things I've read, is, and Michael Singer talks about what we ultimately are, in the untethered soul, about that we're just the witness. That's the constant,
Right.
We're not this construct of all these different ideas and thoughts and memories and all that. That's not us. We are the one who's always witnessing that.
Yeah.
And, I've always had this thought then, which is, that whole river of consciousness thing that I've talked about in past episodes, which is this idea that, when we leave this form, I believe we'll go back to that stream of consciousness and, where everyone else is and the ones that will come next. I think we're put into this form that we are now because it's so testing. It's where you're enhancing your experiences, because what could be more difficult than constantly battling like almost a shadow self and resistance, and doing that every single day. It's like that's surely whatever we are is being enhanced by that experience, it's whereas, we might, I don't know where we've come from, where we go to next, but like, I feel like, it's almost a testing ground. Like, how can we enhance the consciousness? All right, dump them in this really difficult world where there's so many things you have to struggle through every single day of your life,
Yeah, exactly. We're probably like powering some machine somewhere. We're like,
maybe
like
it's like the Matrix with the batteries.
Resistance, like the power level goes up.
That's, it's funny. That's what I feel like. I feel like there's this one really big, strong stream of consciousness. And for every person that, it sounds weird, but for every person, right, who has a big, long life full of multiple experiences and all those things, you go back into that river and it just strengthens that consciousness.
Right.
It is just like charging up a battery. So you want to be here and try and push through the resistance and the struggles as much as possible with the idea that you're just strengthening the consciousness at the end of it. True. Like a big battery.
That's a cool idea. No, I like that. I've never thought of it that way before. And that's really interesting. Well, and that would be really difficult for some people, I would think, because, so this kind of helps me answer the question about whether you should rest, change your course, or if you should just face resistance head on when you're struggling with something. Because I think the wise person would know when to rest, but the reason that they're resting is because they want to be able to contribute to the collective consciousness. So they're not doing it necessarily for a selfish reason. They're doing it because they know that they have to take care of themselves in order to live a productive life. And in order to, add to that battery or whatever. Whereas the other person with the resistance, if they were giving into resistance and maybe falling more into sloth than rest, they would be doing it for selfish reasons, because they would just be doing it because they didn't feel like contributing to anything, or they didn't feel worthy enough to contribute to anything, and so they were doing. So maybe that's the difference, is the reason that you're resting.
Yeah, I agree. I think we know when we're resting with purpose and when we're not.
Yeah,
And
right.
I say it's like reading I don't know, I keep using PhD kind of scenarios, but that's all I've got to draw on these days.
Sure. Yeah, I know.
But it's reading a journal article. Like there's times when I'm there and I'm reading it and it's just not going in. And I think, well, and then you've got two choices. I can push through and keep reading it and hope that it just clicks and I start to understand it and it's going in. Or I can go and take a break, let my brain kind of catch up and then go back and read it again.
Mhm.
And, there are times when I'm like, yep, I have to do that. I just know myself well enough to say I'm going to waste time by trying to push against that resistance right now. I need the smart and wise thing to do is to go and have a break and to come back when I'm reset. And then, then I'll have a much better time of reading it. I'll absorb more of that article. So, yeah, I think when you're going, can't be bothered. Like I just, I'm just going to be lazy today and I want to go watch my shows, when I know I should be doing something productive. So I just think, we all know it. And so we should only be resting, I think, with purpose.
Yeah. And I think another way, this goes back to something that Pressfield said, another way to know is he would say that you're giving into resistance if you feel hollow afterwards. And of course, I think the example that he gave had to do with sex, but he was talking about like because you can use sex as a form of resistance. Well, promiscuity is what we talked about with the Yetzer Hara. So that's a form of resistance. And he was saying you could tell the difference between if you're actually having sex for love or if you're having sex just because it's a form of resistance, because you'll feel hollow afterwards after you if you're using it as resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that actually makes a lot of sense, or I could picture that. But I mean, that could be anything too, like even like eating a cupcake. Like maybe you're on a diet and maybe you pick Saturday as your day that you cheat and eat whatever you want. Well, that day, if you eat a cupcake, you're not feeling hollow afterwards because you knew that was your reward for the week. Now, if you eat a cupcake on Tuesday, you're probably feeling hollow afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's another way it's too late by then because it's already done, but it still gives you some information going forward.